آزادی بیان.
言论自由
free speech.
The principal questions, I think, that now confront proponents of free speech like me is whether we should modify these views because of widespread racism and xenophobia in Europe and other parts of the world, and the role that may be played by hate speech in contributing to this development. Whether the fury ignited in a number of countries with predominant or substantial Muslim populations by portrayals of the Prophet Muhammad that are regarded as derogatory, and the violence resulting from these episodes should make us impose curbs on such provocations. And because the internet makes it possible to disseminate hateful and outrageous messages instantaneously to a vast number of persons all over the world. So far as hate speech is concerned, it's important to point out that there are curbs required by law in many countries. It is generally the case in European countries and many other parts of the world that the law criminalizes the defamation of groups of persons on the basis of race, nationality, ethnic origin, or religion. In a few European countries, such as Denmark, for example, defamation on the basis of sexual orientation is also prohibited. In order to be criminal, such defamation usually has to take the form of incitement to discrimination or violence. This accords with Article 20 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which requires that, quote, any advocacy of violence, any advocacy of national, racial, or religious hatred that constitutes incitement to discrimination, hostility, or violence shall be prohibited by law. In the United States, where free speech generally enjoys an especially high level of protection, incitement by itself is not sufficient to justify sanctions. And both the United States and the United Kingdom entered reservations about Article 20 before ratifying the covenant because of their concern that it does not adequately protect freedom of expression. In the United States, hate speech may only be punished in circumstances where, and this is a quote from the leading U.S. Supreme Court decision on this matter, where it is directed to inciting or producing imminent lawless action, and it is likely to incite or produce such action. That is, it's not only if you incite violence, but the circumstances have to be such that violence will imminently take place or could imminently take place if you incite violence. In contrast, the European Court of Human Rights has held that hate speech is unworthy of protection. In 2009, it said that it is necessary to prohibit all types of expression which advocate, incite, and promote hate based on intolerance. And it's important to note the words advocate and promote, not just incite, but if you advocate hate, that should be prohibited according to the European Court of Human Rights. Now, as a partisan of the view that curbs on speech should be restricted to time, place, and manner rather than content, obviously I prefer the approach of the United States Supreme Court, which is very much focused on time and place. That is, the circumstances where violence is imminently likely to take place. Of course, legal restrictions on hate speech do not seem to be very effective in Europe. In Europe, restrictive laws and court decisions, I think, are mocked by the rise of extremist political parties in a number of countries, and by the frequency with which football games are marred by racist slurs. In my view, a reason for the seeming ineffectuality of laws against hate speech is the multitude of ways that such views can be expressed. This is an inherent weakness of laws that attempt to punish speech. Although the United States is a country of very deep racial divisions, where hate speech, like all other forms of speech, enjoys legal protections. The actual prevalence of hate speech in public discourse in our time has not seemed as great as in Europe, where the law allows criminal prosecutions of a great range of expressions. I think that factors other than legal prohibitions seem to account for the differences today between Europe and the United States.